Atomic batteries to power. Turbines to speed.
Roger. Ready to move out.
Batman! We're helpless in this monstrous invisible grip.
Steady, Robin. I see one hope.
You ever dance with the devil in the pale moonlight?
This town needs an enema.
Riddle me this, riddle me that. Who's afraid of the big black bat?
And I thought my jokes were bad.
Your punishment must be more severe. When Gotham is ashes, you have my permission to die. Gotham! This is your liberation.
My mother warned me about getting into cars with strange men.
This isn't a car.
I want you to tell all your friends about me.
What are you?
He's a silent guardian, a watchful protector, a dark knight. I'm Batman. Let the games begin.
Welcome to the Batman on Film podcast. I'm Bill Jet Ramey, founder and editor-in-chief of BatmanOnFilm.com. Welcome to the latest Batman on Film podcast, and guess what we're going to talk about? The third and most recent trailer for Batman vs. Superman, Dawn of Justice, which dropped on Jimmy Kimmel Live last Wednesday, and then it's Saturday now, so a few days later I'm sure all three of us have seen it multiple times already and ready to talk about it. I appreciate everybody's emails, questions, on not only through email but on Twitter and also via the Batman on Film Facebook fan page. A lot of questions. I don't know if we can get to all of them, but we'll probably answer most of your questions just over the course of the podcast during our discussion. So let me bring on my two guests today. First up is our old friend Mark Hughes, longtime BOFer, longtime BOF contributor, writer for Forbes.com. How you doing, Mark?
I'm doing good. Sorry for my bat voice today. I've been a little under the weather, but I will soldier through.
Very good. And also today is Rick Shue. Rick is also a longtime Batman on Film reader. Me and Rick met online years ago, and then we finally met up back the Dark Knight Rises. He came down and watched The Dark Knight Rises with me. He lives up in the Dallas area. I'm closer to Houston, so we've been in contact since, and he started contributing to Batman on Film ever since. So how you doing today, Rick?
I'm doing great, and thanks for having me here. This is awesome.
All right, guys. So let's just think about when you first saw the trailer, and Mark, I'll let you start so you can rest your voice afterward. What was your just first initial thoughts after you saw the trailer when it hit the net on Wednesday night?
I loved the trailer, and my first impression of it was, this is like a comic book come to life. This is what the trailer needed to do. It needed to show people a live-action version of DC Comics. It reminded me a lot, actually, of some of the DC animated films. I loved the focus on... There was a sense of humor to it, but it wasn't like all jokey. There was just enough sense of humor to kind of give lie to a lot of the reports that there were going to be no jokes at all in the movie. Great action shots in the movie, lots of Batman and Superman together, and that when the Trinity were on screen at the end with that kind of music just building and building, it was everything that I've waited for to see those characters on screen together for the first time.
Awesome. Rick, I know that we've talked before about the first two trailers, which we both really liked. What was your impression of trailer number 3?
Okay, since the purposes of this is response, let me dig deep, because I have a little bit of a metamorphosis, but I'll have to admit, when I first saw it, I don't want to say I hated it, because that's too strong of a word, but I was very confused, disoriented, and quite frankly disappointed. For starters, I think that the opening sequence was a very bizarre choice to have opening up a trailer, because it was very choppy. And quite frankly, that's one part I really haven't changed on. I still think it was an odd choice. I think it's a very choppy scene to try to put into a trailer, because everything's out of context, and it's just kind of the circumstantial thing where you have these guys meeting and talking, and everything. And the conversation's weird. I think that the exchange was with Lex a little off-putting. But as I continued to watch it, I just sort of accepted that part of it and moved on. It got a little better. And then when it was said and done, I just kind of sat there and I went, okay, very awkward trailer, edited in a very weird way, and I feel like it gave away too much. And then we'll get more into how I feel about it now later, but that was my initial impression.
Yeah, just real quick, I don't want to say disappointed was the word, but I did like the first two trailers much better.
Yeah, me too. By far.
And I think it was just, and we're going to get into it as part of on our agenda here. We'll talk about whether they revealed too much. But I was kind of disappointed and shocked that they revealed Doomsday, or what appears to be Doomsday, as a villain at the end, and also Wonder Woman, which I'm going to assume, but I don't know. Wonder Woman's first big reveal in the movie looks like it's her saving Batman. I'd rather have seen that in the film. So I'm kind of, in the middle. Didn't hate it. I didn't love it. I like the others, but it did confirm to me how much I like Ben Affleck as Batman. I thought all the Batman stuff was really good. So we'll move on. Speaking of Batman and Affleck, this is the first time we heard Ben Affleck speak as Batman.
Yeah, you're right. I didn't even think about that. That's
we've heard Bruce Wayne,
right,
who sounds a lot like Ben Affleck, but we didn't hear Batman yet. Mark, what'd you think about the new Bat voice?
I like it quite a bit. I like that it's clearly modulated.
Yeah.
I know there was a lot of when Christian Bale had his Batman voice, there was a lot of debate among fans about whether it went too far, particularly in The Dark Knight. And I like that with Ben Affleck, I don't have any trouble understanding him. I liked the voice even more in this particular trailer than, in the previous trailer. We just heard him say, "Tell me, do you bleed? You will." Now we've heard him speaking just generally, so we get a much better impression of that voice. And I think Affleck is I love the fact that, a year ago you just couldn't stop people from going on and on complaining about Ben Affleck as Batman and saying he was going to be awful. And now you don't hear anybody saying that anymore. And even some people who were complaining about him are now saying he's the best part he looks like he'll be the best part of the movie. So even his voice is
funny how that works.
Yeah. So it's pretty, I like the Bat voice a lot.
Rick, your take.
No, I like the as well. And to kind of pick up on what I was saying earlier, I like the trailer a lot more now than I did when I initially saw it. But again, I'll get more into that. But the specific question in terms of the voice, let me just say first and foremost that I am apologetic for Christian Bale's Bat voice. Although I do recognize that if you look at his voice or listen to his voice from Batman Begins, and then as the trilogy continued, it did get a little bit more aggressive and everything. So I guess it's fair to say that the Batman Begins Bat voice is for me, it's damn near perfect. I feel like, and in some ways, call me crazy, but I feel like that's kind of what Ben Affleck is doing. In fact, there's that line he has at the end, and he says, "She with you," kind of thing. And it just, to me, that sounded like Bell's Begins voice. So I do like the voice a lot. I was one of the people that did not like the casting of Ben Affleck, but my position was a little different. My position wasn't, oh God, this guy's going to suck, he's terrible. My position was, I know that he's talented. I know that he can pull it off. I know that he is a passionate director and actor. Everything from Shakespeare in Love to Chasing Amy, whatever. I mean, he's legit. But to me, he was a weird choice just simply by virtue of being overexposed. When I think back, I can remember very vividly when Michael Keaton was cast as Batman. I went, oh, this is interesting. Mr. Mom and Beetlejuice as Batman. Ooh, let's see what's up those sleeves, right? And then you get into the Christian Bale casting, like American. And it's just crazy cool. With this, it was like Affleck. Man, really? I've seen Affleck do everything from Shakespeare to Daredevil to, dare I say, Superman. So I had to just kind of warm up to that. That the mystery and mystique was gone. But I think the biggest compliment I can give Affleck is that with all that baggage that I kind of made to come full circle or not full circle, but do a 180 is, despite all of that, despite the fact that he is quote unquote overexposed, he's gotten really, and that's, I think, again, the biggest compliment I can give him. So bravo to him for even making someone like me thinking it might not be interesting, because it is very interesting. And the Bat.
Yeah, I liked it myself. I'm one who's always thought Batman's voice should be altered electronically somehow, and I know that was how it was supposed to be in the Dark Knight trilogy, but they never explained it or showed it in any form or fashion, and which kind of led to some of the criticisms about Bell's voice, which I understand. But yeah, I like it. I have no problem with it. I just wonder how it's done. I'm sure they won't explain it. You just have to accept it at face value, because he does wear more or a less what's the word I'm looking for? Technology-based suit in this film than we've seen, especially with the Dark Knight trilogy. So, it's just basically, it is what it is. You accept it for what it is and move on. Any other thoughts about the voice before we move on to Doomsday?
Not here. I dig it. I think it's cool.
All right. The big reveal was Doomsday's the villain. Now, that's Mark and I talked about this for over a year. Probably Mark. I think
about a year, over a year and a half. I actually looked through my emails to see how long ago did we know for sure were we. And there was a point when, before Affleck was cast, there was a point when there was rumors about Momoa being cast, and we were discussing whether or not he was more likely to be Doomsday or somebody else. So. We for about at least about a year and a half we've been aware Doomsday was in this thing.
Yeah, I mean there had been whisperings of it, and I think the most obvious, and not just for me and Mark. I mean, me and Mark have heard it from industry insiders that there were whispers of Doomsday, but also just as the fan and both of us after seeing Man of Steel. With Zod, I always thought that they would do something with Zod and create a Doomsday or a Bizarro Zod or whatever. So it's not that I'm surprised that Doomsday is actually in the film. I am surprised that they revealed him in this trailer, and I know that it may be because if there's a toy of Doomsday, this is just a preemptive strike to show that the character's in it, but. Still, there's part of me that really wishes that I had seen it in the film and not the trailer. Mark, you agree, disagree? What's your take on the whole thing?
No, I think they kind of had to reveal Doomsday now. I think you did hit on one thing, that Christmas is coming up, so maybe there are some toys for the movie that are based on the film that are going to come out in advance, and that they can't just push a lot of Doomsday merchandise without people going, gee, I wonder why they're doing that. But other than that, the bigger thing is, if you're going to do a trailer that's about more than just Batman fighting Superman, we've seen that now for 2 trailers. For the IMAX footage and then the first trailer, they needed to take things up a notch. They needed to show them fighting something else. Just having more Lex Luthor wasn't going to do it, and just having more footage of Batman fighting Superman wasn't going to do it. They needed something else, and in order to do that, if they were going to show Batman and Wonder Woman and Superman fighting together, which I do think that they needed, it was time. We're just, we're about 4 months, or we're less than 4 months out now, or as of today, we're under 4 months from the release date of the film. They needed to kind of move the discussion and the buzz and the narrative in the media about the film to a different level. And in order to do that, they had to get some of this stuff up on screen. And if they didn't show Doomsday, we'd just have a lot of footage of the 3 heroes battling some unseen thing, or they could have just spliced it in a way to make it look like that it was Batman and Wonder Woman fighting Superman, I guess. But that would have really, I don't like it when they do too much trickery to, completely fake you out about what the movie's about. So I think they had to show Doomsday at this point. And with there's still, we'll get into whether they showed too much or not later, but I think that they could safely show Doomsday. We saw his face. We don't know a whole lot more about it. And the bigger point is the mainstream public has never heard of Doomsday before.
Yeah.
They've got 4 months now to build up people will find out this is the character in the comics. He came and he existed strictly to kill Superman. Once that kind of percolates in the public and the media and people really wrap their head around the implication, it's going to send the buzz and the discussions about this film in a very new direction that hadn't really been talked about except among those of us that knew that Doomsday was already in it.
Yeah, I agree to a certain extent. I think there could have been a way that they hinted at a big villain without actually showing it. I'm really do probably think that if there's some kind of toy or some kind of merchandise that's going to come with this, they thought they might as well reveal it now. But Rick, what's your opinion on the Doomsday reveal?
Yeah, I'm kind of neutral on it, but I want to pick up on something Mark said that I really agreed with when he talked about sort of reaching out to that mainstream cinema goer that's not necessarily someone that grew up with comics or, for that matter, even cartoons in the 1970s. And a lot of people, speaking to those people specifically, don't even really get what the subtitle is. They don't this to them. They're not connecting those dots. So I think it's smart, and this is, by the way, something I have just come to in the last 20 seconds. I think it's smart that they did show a little bit more than just Batman and Superman fighting, because that could be a little off-putting and confusing to an average moviegoer that just kind of is in love with these characters via cinema. However, on that same note, to the flip side of that coin is that I agree with you, Bill, that they probably could have done it in a little bit more of a obscure fashion, but at the end of the day, if Christopher Nolan was less is more, Zack Snyder is more is more, that's just his style. And so, again, I'm neutral. I see both sides of the argument. I will say this. It's funny to me to listen and read comments online and whatever about Doomsday looking like Abomination of the Hulk. He doesn't look like himself. He doesn't have the spikes in the hair, and to those people, I always want to reach out and say, for someone who claims to be someone who knows these characters, you need to realize that this guy changes as he, as threats come and whatnot. So that's an interesting point, but I think he looks great. So I'm excited, but it's just, again, I guess it's fine, but they probably could have done without it. So we'll see. It'll be interesting to see if there's which there probably is. In fact, that's probably really at the end of the day what this is all about, is merchandise.
Well, speaking of Doomsday and his reveal, that's one thing, and I think Mark has some good points. I think Rick has some good points, piggybacking off of Mark as well. And I see the point of doing it for a variety of reasons. But Doomsday shoots a laser beam at Batman in the Batwing, which surely would have incinerated him. But he's saved by Wonder Woman. And to me, that's probably or likely the first time we see her in Wonder Woman costume and not as Diana Prince. And I don't know for sure. I'm just guessing and assuming. So that one, I don't know. I may dig in a little bit on that one. I don't know if they should have showed her saving Batman. For me, the fan in me very much would rather have seen that in the movie and not in this trailer. You could still show Wonder Woman standing alongside Superman and Batman, but did you really have to show that? Mark, you what's your take on that particular scene in the trailer?
Well, I think there was a big reason that they chose to show that now, and I think it's because the discussions publicly about female superheroes and about the genre not having really given female superheroes a prominent enough position and a prominent enough role in the movies, and so often they end up having to be rescued by the male heroes. This is something that's come up quite a bit in the recent months and over the last year in particular, and I really think that choice to show that reveal. I mean, if you look at what's been done. Look at that cover with the magazine cover with Wonder Woman front and center. Then we have in this trailer Wonder Woman saving Batman. Then the last shot of the trailer with the Trinity standing there. Wonder Woman is at the front of them. She's got her shield, her sword, and it's like she's the one leading them into battle. I think that's a very intentional set of imagery that they're creating. And I wish that we'd heard Wonder Woman's voice in this trailer. I wish they'd given her a line to say or something, at least one reveal of a line. But I get what you're saying, that there are some things, some really big, like, cheering kind of moments that you wish you had encountered in the film.
That's got to be one, though. Yeah, I mean, I think you could do all that, Mark, without having to show that. I mean, she's getting her own movie, which is historical,
Right.
and does play into the women in superhero cinema getting a bigger role. And this is the first one that's, DC Warner Brothers is doing that. I don't know if it's the fan. I'm not a marketer. I can't market a film. I'm not in publicity. But I don't think I would have shown that in this trailer. And I'm trying to think of something in the Dark Knight trilogy that is similar. There's some kind of big reveal. If they had showed it in the trailer, it would have really, disappointed.
I can tell you
comparison.
right now what that would be.
Yeah.
It would be Selena Kyle saving Batman by killing Bane. I imagine.
Well, yeah, exactly.
The thing is, though, I think we have to remember as fans, that's a moment we wanted to see. But this trailer, they're trying to overcome a lot of negative perceptions that have been out there about this film. And I think they needed a moment. They wanted something to end this trailer that was going to have that effect of having everyone go, holy crap, and want to cheer. And I think for the mainstream public, showing that shot and showing the three of them standing there like that, I don't know if they had to literally show Wonder Woman saving Batman, but I think that has been such discussed by fans, by the press. A lot of articles I've seen in the last few days have focused a lot of attention on the fact that Wonder Woman saved Batman instead of the other way around. And that's important, and I think they're trying to reach out to female audiences who are going to be happy when the Wonder Woman film eventually comes out. But for right now, they need those women and the public to feel that way now, not a few years from now. They need them to feel that way about this movie and show up for this movie thinking Wonder Woman's going to save Batman and is going to kick ass.
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to think of how they could have
convinced that there's this black, there's this cloud hanging over this picture that if we didn't show some kind of, strong female moment that, it would be a turnoff. I don't really see that culturally I understand that it is necessary for us to have these heroes. In fact, whether it's what's going on in Star Wars, I love the casting of that, the female leads. It's spectacular. And look, I'm married to a strong, liberated woman with 2 daughters, so it's girl power in my house. We're 7. I love it, and I love what they're doing with Wonder Woman. She looks fabulous. Can't wait for the spinoff. Can't wait for her solo flick. But I feel like that moment really could have been a crowd pleaser, and there's just not really a reason to give that away. I agree with Mark in terms of everything that they're trying to do, and I'm appreciative of that. I think it's awesome, but they didn't have to give that moment away to do it. The film's going to be successful. When everybody sees it, or the preview the night before, we're going to know that. I mean, first of all, it's alluded to anyway, but we'll know that Wonder Woman kicks ass and she saves everyone, and that's just going to come out, and everybody's going to know about it. We're going to be reading about it. People are going to go see the film, and just that's going to get everyone very excited about her solo flick. So yeah, I don't think it was necessary to give that moment away to accomplish all the things that Mark is saying. I like that you mentioned her on the cover of E! or whatever it was, or Entertainment Weekly. That was that's a very pertinent point. She is front and center in that. I didn't really even think about it. That's pretty cool.
Well, Wonder Woman's in the film. She saves Batman. That cat's out of the bag. So there's nothing we can do about it now. So hopefully there's more big Wonder Woman scenes, obviously in the film. Go ahead, Mark.
There is one other thing to remember, too. Don't be 100% sure that we saw, because what happens in that scene, the way it's edited, there's clever editing happening again, because we see Batman holding his hands up and he's in his ship. Then we see the blast, we see Wonder Woman there. The next time we see Batman, when Superman says, "Is she with you?" and Batman says, "I thought she was with you," Batman isn't anywhere near his plane. He's standing there with the gun. Yeah. The smoke is rising around him. So we can't say for sure. We know exactly what happened there. Point. I suspect she shows up before that moment, possibly, and that Batman and Superman are standing there facing Doomsday, and that Wonder Woman jumps at the last minute, jumps down in front of them and blocks that blast. I think what we see there is a whole lot of different moments being spliced together to create a very different impression than what maybe really happens.
That's a great point. I didn't even think about that, but that's
those are some
excellent
good points,
point.
and I love the visual. Yeah, I love the visual of her front and center when you see the three of them standing there. It's amazing to see. It's great.
Well, let's move on and talk about likely. We've nitpicked about Doomsday. We've nitpicked about the reveal of Wonder Woman saving Batman and whether or not those things should have been in the trailer. But I think the biggest point of contention, or not for me personally, but I guess online there's been a lot of debate and negativity about Eisenberg's Lex Luthor, particularly how he's shown in this video. And I'd say specifically the scene at the party, the Lexus party, when he introduces Bruce Wayne and Clark Kent. I have no problem with it. I want something different from Luthor, and obviously that's why they picked Eisenberg and why they're going that route. Mark, what do you think about the criticism of this depiction of Superman's arch enemy?
Yeah, I'll really be honest. I'm baffled by some of the extreme complaints that I'm seeing about this. I don't think the acting looks remotely problematic there. I think his acting is as good as it is in anything else he's acted in, first of all. I think he's very clearly playing this as a confident, nerdy guy who is kind of giving both of these guys a little bit of hell and is being a smart aleck to him. It's a different kind of Luthor. I mean, we had Gene Hackman, we had Kevin Spacey. We've had Luthor in live action, also on Smallville. We've had several different iterations of him. I think there's got to be room to try a different approach to Luthor, and I think this particular version of Lex Luthor, he's flamboyant and kind of loud, and he's willing to go up to people like, Bruce Wayne is not somebody who's used to having somebody kind of smacking him and poking him in the side and things like that, and that's what he's doing to make these guys uncomfortable. We've seen other shots of him as Luthor where we know he has the same kind of personality but toned down a little bit more, and that he's a little more reserved. He's clearly been drinking. I think at this party, I'm guessing he's probably had a couple of drinks. Maybe not, maybe not, but he's at a party, he sees them, he's like, blah! And I think that's perfectly fine. I don't think there's anything wrong with that moment. I think his acting is great. I think it's fine to have a different version of Lex Luthor. So I really feel like it's one thing to complain and say, well, I was hoping that with this being such a really comic book DC movie, that we would have a Luthor who was much more like the current iteration in the comics or something. And okay, if it's not the version you wanted, that's one thing, but some of the complaints insisting that it's a bad version or that his acting is terrible or anything like that, I absolutely cannot even relate to it. I don't see it at all. I don't know where that's coming from.
Rick and I talked Thursday, and he had some interesting points about that, or some observations, and it's 2 days later, so I'm wondering if he's altered his opinion. So, Rick, what do you think about we got to keep it in context, just what we saw in the trailer. We don't know. I agree there's probably a very evil, asshole side of Lex. This public version, if you read that piece, what was it supposed to be? Fortune magazine piece that was supposed to be about him.
Right.
Mm-hmm. It's really like a fluff piece of how he's, is a vegan, and he's all, he's hip and cool, and it's a cool place to work at LexCorp and this and that. So I think there's two sides to the character, but go ahead. What do you think about just what we saw of him in this particular trailer?
Well, first of all, the casting of him, I've been a big fan of ever since, and I'm obviously a big fan of him. The first time I saw the trailer, that whole sequence, like I said earlier, was odd to me. I think it was just odd editing, and it was a weird choice for a trailer. And then by the time he jumped on screen, he looked like Jim Carrey's Edward Nygma, and he sounded like Johnny Depp's Willy Wonka. And I was just kind of taken back by the whole thing. Times I just obviously have gotten past the fact that I find the editing and how it was executed at the beginning odd. It is what it is. It's there. So now I just kind of put myself in the scene. It's out of context. And quite frankly,
it was just weird for a trailer to see that. It was just, I thought it was just, when it started, I thought the whole thing was just going to be the
scene,
extended scene.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I thought too. And then it was part of the trailer. And it was just so strange. I don't make any apologies for that because it is an odd choice, but it's there. And so I'm the whole scene, but I've really much warmed up to his quirkiness. And you know, he's obviously got a lot of stuff up his sleeve, and I'm now asking myself these questions about, okay, so does he know who they are at this point? You know, it's, you know, and that's because he's so just manipulative, and I want to just slap him in the face, and that's what he's going for. And I think mission accomplished. You know, I love the moment where he's like, oh, you know, that's what the heck of a handshake. You know, do not pick a fight with this man. And then the music just blasts. And then you've got Bruce Wayne, you juxtapose the scenery and you have Bruce Wayne towering over Clark Kent and he says that. It's just, that moment to me is just amazing. And I didn't really catch it first 2 or 3 views because I was kind of bitter and pissed off about the way the trailer was opening. But now I can hone in on that moment and it's awesome. So no, I'm very excited about his performance. Frankly, I was very disappointed in Kevin Spacey's Lex Luthor. I mean, there were a lot of problems with Superman Returns, but I didn't think Kevin Spacey's Lex Luthor was going to be problematic. And the fact that it was very, very strange to me. So to see something different. And if you're a fan of his work, of Jesse's work, you know that he's quirky. You also know he has a lot of tricks up his sleeve, and he is a very diverse actor. And so I'm very much looking forward to that transition where we see the evil, sadistic, badass Lex, because he's going to make an appearance. There's no doubt about it.
Mark, anything else you got to add to Lex and BVS before we move on?
No. I'm very happy with. I think Eisenberg is going to do a great job. I think we are going to see several versions of Lex Luthor, and I think the choice of that scene for the trailer, it wasn't what anyone expected, which I think is partly why they chose it to kick it off. You don't know what's coming. You're ready. You're thinking, here comes Batman versus Superman trailer, and then it's Batman and Superman at a party, and it's Clark Kent and Bruce Wayne, and then we get that moment where Eisenberg says what's on everyone's mind. Here it is so exciting. Clark Kent meets Bruce Wayne. And it's really, I mean, he's speaking for the audience. It's kind of maybe he's putting a fine point on it, and maybe the dialogue's a little on the nose, but I think it's fine. I think it worked, and it's kind of speaks to the excitement of this moment when we're seeing these. This is probably the first time they've ever seen each other. This is it. We just saw the first time that Batman and Superman walk up to each other and speak together. Right there. That was it, you know?
Yeah. Have either one of you seen the version where you're actually looking at it from Lex's point of view? It's online. It's pretty cool. He's looking at Bruce and Clark. So
no, I haven't seen it.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So
I almost said something there, but I almost said something about something that I think we all know and that we're not supposed to talk about, so I'll be quiet. But
well, I don't know. This next part is something we're not supposed to talk about. I'll say this: I have heard nothing, and this is just completely. It's been one of my hypotheses I've had since Man of Steel, and knowing where there's going to be a sequel and so forth, and some of the stuff I've seen in some of the trailers. Does anybody but me think that there is a chance that not only is Doomsday some sort of Kryptonian clone, probably likely from Zod, but could a version of Bizarro be in this film as well? And I say that because in the previous trailer, in both trailers, we've seen Superman do some stuff that's very uncharacteristic of Superman. He looks angry, and I'm excluding the stuff that we know is in the sequence. There's a sequence in I'm trying to not say. I almost caught myself saying something.
the Mad Max footage, the Mad Max Batman footage.
Yeah, there you go. Well.
Okay, I'll just say this: excluding Desert Batman, and that's Superman. There seems to be a Superman that's angry, but he's not in that desert setting. He seems to be in an urban setting with eyes ablaze and very angry, and we see him bow down in front of Lex. And if you watch this next the third trailer, the one we're talking about, when Lex says, if man won't kill God, then the devil will do it. And he turns around. When he's turned around, he's kind of facing the camera. Superman, or what's supposed to, it's Superman with his arms crossed, it's behind Lex, and it's the same shot from the previous trailers with him bowing down to Lex. So, I mean, do you think there's a chance that Lex has tried to clone Superman? And also, I'll shut up. But at some point, Superman goes from being a hero. They build the statue, or the big Superman statue, Metropolis, and it's got the Battle of Metropolis memorial and so forth. And Superman is part of the memorial for saving the city. And Bruce Wayne even talks about the Daily Planet writing fluff pieces every time their hero saves a cat out of a tree or whatever line he uses. But something makes the people turn on Superman, besides the fact that the false god and the fear of him being an alien that could just go rogue at any time and burn the whole thing down, as Bruce says. So what are you guys' thoughts? Mark, go ahead and kick in your idea.
Well, we've talked before about the Bizarro potential, and I know at one point when that first trailer came out, I emailed you and was like, Superman bowing down in front of Lex kind of made me wonder if that was the real Superman. I'll say now, I no longer think that. I think when we see Superman standing in the background when Lex says maybe a devil will do it, that shot comes immediately before the shot that we also see in the trailer where Superman says, "What have you done?" I think that there's some information I know, so I don't really know how much I can say here, except that I do think that there is a point at which Luthor has some measure of control that he can exert over Superman, and that eventually Superman just has to decide not to give in or whatever. But I think that's what's going on, and I think the trailers were cleverly edited to make it appear that Superman is angry and flying around causing more destruction, and what's really going on is that it's that battle. If you look at the background, it looks all like the same background that's present when they're fighting Doomsday. So I think that's going on. I don't know for sure, but I feel pretty sure that there's not an actual Bizarro in it. I will say I think it's possible that they're saving something back because they're using Zod's body in one part of that trailer, but when you see Doomsday being born, he's clearly being grown out of one of those pods that was used on the ship that crashed, where they were going to grow Kryptonians.
Yeah.
Maybe they're using a little bit of Zod's DNA to activate the Doomsday Protocol or whatever, but there's a possibility maybe that he reanimates Zod first, and Zod fights Superman, Superman destroys Zod, and then Doomsday is unleashed, perhaps. I don't know, but my guess is that we don't see a Bizarro per se in this movie. I'll say that and leave it at that.
Rick?
I think Richard Pryor shows up with bad kryptonite. I hope he's not in the film, honestly. There's a lot going on. We have not seen Aquaman yet. We know he's there. I would prefer him not to be. I like the mystery of some of the scenes that I'm seeing with Superman and Lex and trying to figure out what's going on here.
And that's the whole point. We're
just kind of
it does bring up the point that there's a lot of stuff that we don't know, which leads to the big question. And let's just do it this way. I'll pose the question. You guys give me yes or no, and then and a brief statement of why. Was too much revealed in this trailer? Mark?
I don't think so. I know that's a big complaint, but I'll say, first of all, what the trailer showed us is that Batman meets Superman, they fight, they team up, Wonder Woman joins them. That's the primary things. And we should already have known that. I mean, the movie is Batman versus Superman, Dawn of Justice. So I think none of that was a surprise. I think the only giveaway was showing Doomsday, and I think that it was time for us to see Doomsday at this point. Like I've said before, we're less than 4 months out from the movie. They needed to create a second narrative now for this movie. It's been going for a while that it's Batman versus Superman, Batman versus Superman. You can't just keep banging that same drum. So Doomsday was really the only big surprise reveal in this trailer. and I think I think there's so much left. We've got other superheroes that are in this movie. We've got at least 2 subplots that are in this movie. I think that there is actually, I'll say this, I wasn't going to say anything, but in that Mad Max footage, Batman in the Desert footage, those look an awful lot like parademons flying around him. And I'll leave it at that. So I think there's more going on here, and I think that there's some subplot going on here, because this is a film that's leading into this entire film is setting up Justice League. It's not just setting up the DCU. They've made it very clear that that this whole set of films are all kind of linked together as being a giant Justice League project overall. So I think there's plenty left that we haven't seen. Everything we know right now, aside from Doomsday's identity, and most of us knew there was some extra villain that was going to be the physical villain. So really, the Doomsday's identity is the only thing that this trailer gave away that was revealed that I think is beyond what we all pretty much should have known already. That was very obvious just from the title.
Let me say one thing about the parademon thing, and I can tell you, well, I better not. I'll leave it at that.
That's exactly. Me too. I wanted to comment on it. Yeah. Post-apocalyptic drones.
Yeah, I'll leave it at that. Rick, go ahead. Yes or no, and why?
Okay, so the answer to the question was yes because of the Wonder Woman reveal, but Mark has made some very good points in terms of the editing. So I'm going to erase those points, and I'm going to say actually no. I think that one more small thing could have pushed it over the edge. That was obviously one of them. I'm retracting that a little bit. So no, I think that the stuff that we have anyway, especially if you understand what the subtitle means. So no, I think it's good. I don't want another trailer revealing anything, and I don't want to see Aquaman until the movie's released.
I'm going to say yes, only because I guess it's the fan part in me. Maybe it's the fact that it's the Chris Nolan influence in me that less is more, and even with the new Star Wars films, has shown very little. I just like to experience stuff in the theater rather than on a trailer. Trailers are completely different than they were when I was a kid. You know, you didn't see much, and maybe I'm just old school like that. I could have done without seeing Doomsday. I could have done without seeing Wonder Woman save Batman. That's just my personal opinion. I think they could have made a trailer that got all of what they wanted to say, and I think Mark's points of why they showed what they showed were excellent, and I agree. I think they could have done it without revealing so as much as they did. But again, there's still quite a bit that we don't know about the film. We haven't seen, and I always say if the people who are complaining, and this was probably the first time that I could say I was somewhat disappointed, not completely, but I just wasn't blown away by a trailer. I mean, going back to all of the Dark Knight trilogy stuff, even Man of Steel, and everything we've seen from Batman and Superman so far, this is the first time I've kind of went, huh, really? And so.
But do you still feel that way? Because I know that you and I both felt that way at the initial.
It's grown on me, but it still didn't. I think the first 2 trailers are just head and shoulders better. Maybe it's because it really shows Batman. It's a lot of Batman-heavy stuff, and it's darker, and that's just my sensibilities when it comes to this stuff. And it may be, but I just, I'm still excited for the film. But I will, like I said, it's the first time I've kind of been meh, and if I had to grade it, I'd give it a C+ B-, somewhere in that area.
Do you think to any extent the fact that this trailer clearly shows Batman standing beside Wonder Woman and Superman, like an alien and a magic character, is part of what bothers you about it a little more? That it's more overtly like this is going to be Batman in a giant alien and superhero world, and we see Batman in this trailer. He's essentially fighting Superman and Doomsday instead of the Joker and criminals.
Yeah, it's not my personal preference the way Batman is depicted. Now, I do love Batman versus Superman part, and that's probably because I'm a huge fan of The Dark Knight Returns. I like that. I like I do like and respect the fact that they are trying to keep this relatively grounded, a grounded universe. But I mean, I don't think there's that. I think my biggest complaint is I think I saw too much, and I would rather see it in the film. So it's not really Batman standing next to Superman or Wonder Woman, or in front of a genetically produced Kryptonian monster, but I think it's just for me. I feel like I've seen too much, even though I probably haven't. So I mean, that's just why I would say yes, they showed a little bit too much, but I also know that final judgments need to be reserved for the film. But with these trailers are like their own little thing. We've spent 46 minutes talking about a 3-minute trailer, and the movie is going to be 2+ hours, and that's just it's just the way it is. We review trailers, and I don't think we should review trailers, but we can talk about how we felt, and I think that's appropriate to do.
Well, one of the things to do, guys, is I'm juxtaposing the trailers themselves and looking at the different tones. And what I'm kind of figuring out is you kind of put it in on a bowl and stir it up. And I feel like that it's going to be obviously dark and gritty. There's no doubt about that. I mean, Snyder has been pretty spectacular in terms of honoring the Nolan, the blueprint, or everything that we're doing. And then, but there hasn't been any comic relief in any of the previous trailers whatsoever. There's not been that kind of David Goyer, like funny one-liner or what have you. And even if you go back to the Nolan trilogy, there were a lot of those, and the trailers for the Dark Knight trilogy. There was a lot of comic relief, whether it was This Is Coming Black or what have you. So I think that as opposed to going to having a more balanced trailer, what they have done is say, take a look at the trailers in their totality, right? And then there's your balance there, is kind of looking at the different tones and whatnot. I have a very interesting thought on not so much a thought, but the music is, what did you guys think of the music? The music was
I didn't like it. I just didn't like it. I'm really hoping that's not the Batman theme in the film, and I probably isn't, but it just was something like, it just kind of got old and like it was like on a loop, and it just.
Mark, what did you think about the music?
Bugged me.
I actually liked it. I particularly liked the music in the very final shot of the trailer with the three of them standing there. I really liked it. The imagery plus the music to me kind of combined for the exact feeling that I wanted when the first time I saw those three characters on screen together, and I got it was exactly the feeling that I was hoping I would have, and it had exactly the effect I hoped it would have on me. Cool.
All right, guys, I guess that's not much left to say for a 3-minute trailer. We've talked almost an hour about this third trailer, and agreed on some stuff, disagreed on some stuff. I'm sure we will agree we're all excited for the film, I would say. And this discussion, I'm sure, is continuing on fanboy message boards across the net, wherever you may journey.
Yeah.
So, Mark, got anything to plug?
No, just you can find me as always at Forbes. You can go to Forbes.com/sites/Mark Hughes. And find me on Twitter at Mark Hughes Films. I'll have a lot of really good stuff coming up pretty soon. Some articles with I won't even say what they are. Never mind. I'll just leave it at that.
The stuff you're going to want to see.
Stuff you want to see.
Yeah. And check out Mark's stuff here coming up shortly. Rick, what about yourself? Plug your Twitter and anything else you got coming up.
Yeah, follow me, please. Shoe Rick, SHEW. If you're in Dallas, please visit my bar I'm part owner of, Nickel and Rye. And if you like politics, go to Left Shoe Politics and follow me on that as well. And I'll just say one thing also in terms of a plug is that, I think that's it. Wow, that's enough plugs. So follow me on Twitter.
All right, guys, thanks. So that'll do it for this edition of the Batman on Film podcast. So for Mark and Rick, this is Bill, and we wish you, happy holidays. It's that time of the year. We've already had Thanksgiving. Christmas is coming up. And I would suspect, guys, that things will be kind of low key on the Batman vs Superman front, at least until January. So for the guys again, this is Bill. Y'all have a great one. Appreciate you listening.